In 1924, in the Pacific Northwest near Mount St. Helena, a group of miners led by Fred Beck were staying in a cabin in the wilderness when, in the middle of the night, rocks started hitting the cabin walls and something attempted to break in by pounding on the walls and roof. The men fired off their guns through the windows at the creatures that were described as large bipedal apes. The area has since been renamed to Ape Canyon. So today, we are going to be talking about Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, the legendary creature said to roam around the remote wilderness of North America, described as a large, hairy, ape-like figure. It has been the subject of folklore, eyewitness accounts, and various reported sightings for many years. We have casts of mysterious footprints, eerie howls have been recorded, various videos and pictures, and it has been captivating imaginations and sparking countless investigations and debates. Today we discuss, is it real?
So, it was first called Bigfoot in 1958 after Jerry Crew, a bulldozer operator in Humboldt County, California, that's Northern California, discovered a set of large, as in 16-inch, humanoid footprints in Six Rivers National Forest. Many of his co-workers had seen similar things, so they all started calling the creature Bigfoot. So, what are Bigfoot's essential features? It's very, probably the most well-known cryptid. So, what makes it Bigfoot, It's pretty much always described as large, bipedal, ape-like, dark, and hairy. Sometimes it's tall, other times it's taller. Sometimes it's smelly, like I think someone described as a bunch of rotten eggs in a dumpster and then it rolled around in it or something. And it has scary eyes at night, which isn't really a feature of any ape, but could be. So, where is Bigfoot? Exactly. It's generally thought of as being from Western North America. That's where Bigfoot, the term started. Sasquatch is sort of a synonym for Bigfoot. That's a Salish word. That the Salish are from the Pacific Northwest, going inland to Idaho. It's also referenced by many indigenous cultures in the Americas, including the Alutiiq, which is in Alaska. The Alutiiq is a group in Alaska who their word for the Bigfoot is Nantinak. And so there are many, many other versions of this. And it also has similarities to some things in the rest of the U.S., such as the skunk ape in the southeastern U.S. This isn't the U.S., but it's America. The Dark Watchers is something that the 16th century Spanish explorers and Mexicans were afraid of. And again, just a lot more in the...
I liked when you said, where is Bigfoot exactly? I thought you were going to give us coordinates.
Oh, yeah. I'm not revealing that information because I signed an NDA at my job.
Right. That's why you never talk about your job.
I did talk about my job.
But specifics are always like, there's certain specifics I'm not allowed to talk about.
Right.
Which is a bit suspicious, if you ask me.
Yeah, true. So I thought we should just try to go over this briefly because this is, like I said, one of the most famous cryptids. So we could possibly go over every single argument for and against, but I thought we should just go the top reasons for it, the top reasons against it.
Yeah. It's almost disappointing that this is the cryptid we have because this is something that you'd want to do a really big deep dive into. There are videos or film reels taken of Bigfoot that have 6-hour podcasts doing deep dives into them. So
you on your channel about Bigfoot?
Nope.
You haven't?
Nope,
Wait.
Never.
Wait, really? Why?
That's actually the reason why. It's because it'd be such a monumental task.
I guess you've made one about the Yeti.
Yeah, and even that was an hour long, I think, or something like that, and it was a very condensed version. But with the Yeti, there's not as much, at least, Western writings and documentaries and research into the Yeti compared to Bigfoot.
I don't know. The people voted for it, so I guess they're okay with a cursory discussion.
Yeah. So is it real?
lake monsters. So maybe we shouldn't so much stock in the people.
Wow, you dictator.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's hard to know why they picked Bigfoot. Just because they knew what it was in some cases, probably.
I mean, we've already technically done Bigfoot, like a Bigfoot, like Old
Yellow
Yellowtop is
top.
supposed to be a Bigfoot.
Yeah, but that's so much more specific.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to get more specific Bigfoot as time goes on. Okay, anyway.
So I thought I could go for the. Do you want to be have more of the pro things to say or the against?
Up to you.
Okay, fine. I'll be against for now. Would you like to go over the top reasons why Bigfoot could be real?
Okay, well, let's think. I guess there's been many, many sightings, like thousands, and there's probably hundreds every year. They seem to be concentrated in the Pacific Northwest. Specifically, I think Washington State has the highest amount, and specifically Olympic National Park, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically is a rainforest.
Yeah, it's a temperate rainforest. I've stayed there. Actually, it was so wet and miserable that my sister and I were like, we're done with this, and we slept in the car instead of camping in a tent.
And I guess there is, not just in Washington, but Canada, like British Columbia and other parts of the, anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, I guess, there's a lot of space, there's a lot of forest. It would be very hard to find a small population of an animal. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of footprint casts over the years. What else has there been? I guess a lot of pictures and videos, but I guess you can debate the authenticity of them as well as everything else. And I mean, I guess as far as cryptids go, bipedal apes isn't the most ridiculous thing I've heard, not by a long shot. And, an ape would be, I mean, usually when we think of apes, we think of an animal with high intelligence. So perhaps, and when we think of I guess a lot of people like to say that when you think of gorillas used to be quote unquote cryptid, at least to the Europeans, because they didn't believe they were real at first, although they were known to some of the people who are native in the area. Maybe it's something similar like to that. They're just even harder to find and a little more intelligent than gorillas.
Some more notes for the pro side there. Do you see them?
Oh, let's see what else we got. Could be extinct great ape. Is this I guess that's the Gigantopithecus theory, that it's like a descendant of Gigantopithecus.
Yeah, not just Gigantopithecus.
Yeah,
Other
that's the
people
main
believe it
one.
could be something else, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard Dryopithecus. And they say, well, how did it get there? Well, some people think it crossed the Bering Strait a few thousand years ago. Yeah, Jane Goodall believes that's a bit reductionist. She said, to be fair, she said that she's a romantic and she doesn't doubt the people, I guess. She wants to be sincere when people tell her that they've seen something. She's not campaigning or giving lectures about Bigfoot definitely is real, a real animal. But yeah, she's open to it, I suppose. Over 10,000 sightings.
Who else believes?
Rhys Darby.
That's right. So, the two most important people in the world believe. That should be enough. Anyway, I'll go over some of the reasons why it could not be real. The first one is that many, many of the sightings have been proven to be hoaxes. It's one of the most hoaxed things ever. So, how much of it is real at all? It's possible everything is a hoax. Other explanations for the sightings could be bears, humans acting and looking weird, like covered in furs that they're wearing, just being weird in the woods, or hoaxing. It could be some escaped apes from a zoo or a private collection. It could be any number of misidentified animals. Not everyone is great at identifying animals, so that's something to note. And finally, people tend to see faces in trees and other inanimate objects because that is a natural human tendency. So some of these sightings could just be you see a weird tree and you think it's Bigfoot.
Yeah, pareidolia, right?
Yeah.
There's a good channel. When I was on that live stream at Bumbleberry, I got to meet Sasquatch Secrets. She's pretty open to Sasquatch, I think. I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but she even did this full stream with another scientist who I think it's also open to Bigfoot, but they went over like how so many of the pictures are just, it's just a picture of a forest and like they zoom in and then like circle, I don't even know what, like a shadow or something. Like I'm trying to be really generous because I know a lot of the time the skeptics are like, oh, it's too shaky or it's too blurry, you can't see anything. And the video, you kind of can see a subject moving or something that vaguely looks like it could be the animal described. I honestly can't even make out like what shape you're supposed to be looking at. And I feel like if I just took random pictures of the forest and put them up, people would accept it.
Right. Okay, so beyond just the explanations for what the sightings could be, there are more reasons why Bigfoot is probably not real. One major thing is that the Pacific Northwest is a really bad climate for a large ape. If you think of all the apes that we know of, they live in like tropical regions with large abundance of food. So there's the orangutan lives in Indonesia, and then the gorillas and chimps live in Africa, jungly areas. There's a lot of food there, and there is not a lot of food, and there's a lot of cold weather in the Pacific Northwest. What say you to that?
I mean, I've heard some arguments that say that it would be enough food because I guess Olympic National Park is by the coast, and some people, like whether or not Bigfoot is a herbivore or mostly herbivorous or carnivorous, I'm not sure, but it seems like most people that believe in it agree that it's an omnivore, and they say that it could be eating fish, or they'd say that, well, if bears can be supported in that environment, then an animal of similar size should be able to be supported in that environment.
Yeah, that is interesting about this argument. Why are they saying that apes are so special they have to be in a tropical area? What makes apes different than bears? Do you know? Because I don't. Big brains that need a lot more food?
So would a gorilla need more food than a grizzly?
I don't know.
I would imagine it was more like the type of food, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, I just don't know.
But this
why
would be a very specialized ape, though. Like,
yeah, I remember when I was little, I was reading this book about biology written in the 70s or 60s, and it was like talking about how scientists have now proven that the panda isn't a bear because the panda has a totally different diet than other bears, so it's bear is a misnomer, blah blah blah. And then now that has been proven wrong the other way, in that pandas are bears, and just because you have a specialized diet doesn't mean you're not that thing. And also, we talked before about how pandas also still need a lot of protein.
Right.
So even a specialized ape, it will still need the same nutritional profile. It's just a question of if it can get those things.
Yeah. Plus, there's sort of the argument as to how closely related they would be to humans, like how far they branch off. I guess it's sort of a surface level thing, but if they're bipeds, and I guess if they're highly intelligent as well, like more so than the other known great apes, maybe they'd be a little closer to us. And if humans can survive in those environments as apes, maybe they can too.
Emergent evolution is a thing. I mean, fish and
that's true.
Whales both swim. Doesn't mean they're more closely related than whales and mice.
Sure, but I'd imagine, I think we're more close. A human is closer related. What did you say? The two things that can swim?
Whales and fish.
A fish?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's possible that bipedalism evolved twice. So.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. There's been many different bipedal apes in the past.
Yeah. Okay, more reasons why the Bigfoot is not real. Why don't we have, like, solid DNA? Why don't we have lots and lots of tracks?
We do have a lot of tracks, though. Whether they're authentic or not, we have, so many casts.
Tracks that a professional could go in and find them. Like,
ooh.
On any given day, they could go in and find some tracks. Like, on any given
Running
day,
your mouth off.
Some deer tracks, you know what I'm saying? So.
On any given day, could you go and find me some mountain lion tracks?
Perhaps not.
Really?
But I'm
But there
not a
are
mountain
mountain
lion.
lions in the area, right?
Not a mountain lion expert, so maybe I could if I knew where they were. But
I'm just saying. But we should probably bring up there's a famous anthropologist called Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum. Is it Meldrum? I think so. He wrote a book called Sasquatch Meets Science, and he has done a lot of studies on different footprint casts, and he believes that some of them to be authentic. I'm not really sure, but he's done a lot of work on Australopithecus footprints and early human ancestor footprints. But he's also done a lot. He's kind of a superstar in the Sasquatch world. But he believes that many of the casts are authentic, and they
did you
couldn't
say
have
they're
been hoaxed.
authentic and also definitely not a known species?
I presume so.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if he wrote a book saying they're authentic but they're human footprints, that's not really.
Well, they could be something else. Any, like a bear, a weird distorted bear footprint, for example. But that's not what he's saying, right? Is what you're saying?
Right. No, yeah, no, I don't think that's his thesis.
Okay. And then my final point about Bigfoot, a reason not to believe, is this is a common thing in cultures around the world. Sort of like how ghosts are a common thing in cultures around the world. Or vampires, I guess. So this idea of a large, almost human thing. Actually, many people think that Bigfoot came here and melded with indigenous knowledge, but the like common conception of Bigfoot was really colored by the European wild man, which is a folklore from Europe. And then to show how common it is for people to imagine this kind of thing, there's also the Yeti, the Yowie, and multiple other examples throughout the world.
It is a bit strange and suspicious that all over the world there are these apes that we just can't discover them properly, and yet they're all bipeds as well. What's that
Yeah,
about?
because we're humans who like to imagine things similar to us. That's just how it is.
Okay.
Same
Um,
reason why when people draw aliens, they draw something that's bipedal with big eyes.
right. Another thing we should mention, or we're probably going to get in trouble, is the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Get in trouble. Who's out here trying to get us in trouble?
If you talk about Bigfoot and you don't mention this film, what are you even doing?
Okay, talk about it then.
Okay, so this was filmed in October 1960s. I can't remember the exact date, early 1960s. Two men were out searching for Bigfoot on horseback in Bluff Creek, California. There was Gimlin and Patterson, two guys out searching for Bigfoot, and they had a film camera with them, a small one, I think 16 millimeter or something. And as they came around one area of the creek, they saw a Sasquatch walking from left to right. Patterson fell off his horse, but as he got up, he was able to pull his camera out and got about, I can't remember exactly how much, but about 30 seconds of footage of a creature walking across the frame. And to this date, it's never really been debunked. We've never found the supposed costume. Patterson has died. Gimlin is still alive, and he still contends that it was real. The costume, there we go. I just exposed myself. If it was a costume, it was a pretty good costume. This was so these guys weren't particularly rich or anything, and yet this costume, if you think the 60s, there's Planet of the Apes, there's 2001: A Space Odyssey. This one is way beyond the quality of them. Some people say if you zoom in, it looks like you can even see muscles shake as she's walking across in her legs. It looks like there's muscles shake beneath the fur, which would have been really difficult to do back then. There's a lot of debate as to how big she was, but I guess those who are pro Bigfoot claim that she was over 6 feet, some say 7 feet tall. And then the other thing is that some people say that the limbs Because at one point she flexes the fingers on her hands, and her limbs aren't proportionate to a human limbs. So the Bigfoot believers would say it's not possible to fake it.
Do we really want to trust the word of a man who can't even ride a horse, though?
Well, his horse reared up when it saw the creature.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not his fault. I see. I don't know. I guess I should rewatch that video.
Yeah, let's
Huh?
watch it right now. There's like a load of different stabilized versions and stuff.
Okay, you send me the best one and I'll watch it right now.
Okay, where's Best Crypt? Truth is Scarier Than Fiction has an alternate channel where he uploads like the original. Is this it? Okay, I'm just gonna send you a stabilized version, okay?
I feel like I've seen this used as like horror sort of, in a horror sort of way, because the part when it looks right at you, that part's freaky. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's frame 358 or 385. It's like this famous frame.
Okay.
Apparently, the men said that when she looked back, they got the sense that it was, "Don't follow me."
Yeah. Why does this video have such creepy music on it? It's sort of scary.
I don't know.
Well, a few things like the soles of the feet seem very pale.
Yeah.
It seems like she's wearing like butt padding to make it like more of a, I don't know, believable sort of thing. Like the muscles that you were talking about.
Right.
I
I
don't
think it's
really.
more in the lower leg you're supposed to see the shake. Although, the skeptical side, people say, why aren't her like glutes firing more?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it looks like butt padding. It's
Okay.
just like big and not moving.
Right.
Uh, I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty good costume for sure, if it is a costume. And it's definitely compelling footage.
The other thing though is that like this is a lot of people say this is like the holy grail of footage, and it's probably some of the best footage we have. And this was taken in the 60s, and we don't really have anything comparable.
Right. Like, what if this animal did exist, but it was lost a little bit after the 60s and we'll never know? We'll never be able
Yeah.
to prove it, right?
There's also the theory that the reason they were able to get close is because they were on horseback, and that like it just to the creature just smelled like there was horses rather than it sort of disguised that there was humans coming.
Oh. We should. How come more people don't use horses then? We should go on with
I don't
horses
know.
and look. You can ride a horse, right?
I haven't ridden a horse in a long time.
Well, it'll be fine. Just two of us, no one to help us in case we get lost, and two horses. Sounds great.
No.
Go
If
look.
this was a hoax, I do have to admit it was pretty. They pulled it off pretty well. There is a few people who have claimed that they were the person in the suit. Most famous one, I think, is Bob Hieronymus, who passed a lie detector. But Patterson also passed a lie detector saying it was real, so that doesn't
Well, what
tell
if they
us
were
that much.
pranking him? What if what is his name? Hieronymus?
Bob Hieronymus, I think, yeah.
What if he and the other guy were like, let's prank Patterson, and they never told him? So like he's fully convinced it's
Gimlin?
real. Yeah, sure.
No one believes that Bob Gimlin was in on it if it was a hoax, because he's like this real salt of the earth guy. Apparently, he like lost a bet with his friends, and he said if he lost a bet, he would join the Marines. And they'd all join the Marines together, and none of his
Uh,
friends decided to join, but he said no, it was a bet, and then he joined.
okay, but sometimes people like to have fun, no matter who they are.
He's kept his story straight. To like, he's still alive and talks about this footage, and he's never like wavered. I'm just saying,
Gimlin's the one who's
if you
still
want
alive?
to accuse this guy of being the lie, everyone thinks that if there was a liar, it was Patterson because he was like always trying to run side hustles to make a bit of
So
money.
maybe they pranked Gimlin.
Yeah, on one phone interview, Gimlin said that maybe it was possible that he was pranked, but the other thing is they were both armed, and as Patterson was taking the footage, he said, "Cover me," as in like with the gun. So if he was faking this, he had him point a gun at a Sasquatch. And wouldn't you be like really worried that he'd take a shot to be like, let's kill it and then we'll have a body to bring back?
Yeah. Yes,
Isn't it
so.
dangerous? Although they also agreed that they wouldn't shoot it beforehand if they found one.
So, this made me think. I keep going back to this because I was listening to it for like 5 hours today. The Cryptid Factor was talking about how there was a reward going out for anyone who could bring solid DNA or physical, as in a body, evidence of the Bigfoot not dead. Did anything ever happen from that? It was like $1 million prize.
I think we would have heard of it if it was successful.
Okay, so no one's won the $1 million yet then.
Not that I know of.
So, what do you think? Do you think that Bigfoot's real?
I think it's very intriguing. I think someone put it best. I was listening to a debate once, and a guy said whether or not there's an animal, with all the people that have had sightings, there's clearly some phenomenon going on here. So
Could just be pareidolia, though. That's a phenomenon.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. But I think it's more than that, though. I think it's cultural. It's, there's a lot of different things that factor into it. I am somewhat skeptical, but hopeful.
Do you still want to go on that expedition to the Pacific Northwest to look? I know you wanted to do that a while ago when I met you.
Yes.
I'll go with you.
Oh, thanks, pal.
Would you?
I remember.
I was gonna say, would you bring a lucky podcast listener along, or do you want to go without anyone like slowing you down?
A lucky podcast listener? I don't know. If Reese Darby's listening, he can come.
Oh, please come with us, Reese Darby. Except, I would just want to listen to him talk, and then we would scare away all the Bigfoot.
No, because what you're supposed to do is you go to Olympic National Park at night and you drive around
Okay.
in your car. Most Bigfoot sightings are by the roadside, so.
But if it's at night, how are we going to get good footage? We have to get really good night vision cameras.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have dash cams and stuff. Maybe it will run in front of the car.
Okay. Sounds like a good trip. When we get Reese to go on the podcast, after I listen to all his podcast episodes, so step 1, listen to all his podcasts. Step 2, invite him to be a guest. Step 3, become best friends. Step 4, go on this trip together.
Sounds good. Before we move on, if we're about to move on, I just want to tell everyone that a few years ago, I remember the first time I showed you this footage.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you called it?
No.
So it's called the Patterson-Gimlin film, or footage. And you were talking about it one day, and you're like, remember when you showed me that stinky Peterson garbage?
I did not say that, did I?
Stinky Peterson garbage. I take it that you weren't very impressed.
Well, because it's Gimlin, so maybe I was like trying to remember. Because garbage and Gimlin both start with a G sound.
There's a very popular YouTuber who also has the name Bob Gimlin. He does a lot of videos on Bigfoot,
Related?
but he's not. No, I don't think that's his real name. I think he just chose it because of the footage.
So I'll say what I think. I think it would be cool to go on this trip to look. I don't really know if it's real. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't really think about it, so I don't have an opinion. You know what I mean?
Right. You're sort of.
It's more like I like to think about things like this, like aliens and ghosts and stuff, because it's fun, not because I believe.
Yeah. It's the one thing I'll say is that there's so many podcasts and witnesses and interviews about it that sometimes I remember, like, when we both lived in Japan, there was a period of time of like a few months when I was driving that I just listened to, I think it was called Sasquatch Chronicles or something like that, where it was just people being interviewed. We listened to it together once. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
But I listened to it so many times that it was just like in my head without even like making a decision or thinking about it, thinking through it consciously. It just like flipped where like Bigfoot was just a known animal to me for a while.
Yeah.
I'd be thinking about like something about Bigfoot and be like, oh yeah, those animals that live up in the Pacific Northwest. And I was like, wait, maybe we don't know that for sure. But it was like, I don't know, strange.
You brainwashed yourself.
I brainwashed myself into just thinking they were a real animal and didn't
That's what
even
I'm doing
question it.
now. I'm brainwashing myself into thinking that I'm from New Zealand and that every single cryptid is real. Because, well, see, I had this list of music that I wanted to get through, and I got through it all. So then I started just listening every single day. Instead of listening to music when I'm driving, I listen to the Cryptid Factor. So it's
That's cool.
like 8 hours nonstop of just being bombarded with these cryptids are real, so and so cryptid stories, blah blah blah, and the New Zealand accent. It's like I'm changing, man.
That's the thing. If you do deep dives into this and you stay there for too long,
Yeah,
you
talk to me
know.
in a month and see if I'm still rational.
Although, yeah, you've never watched the X-Files, have you?
No, I've seen like an episode once, maybe on TV.
Yeah, I think the premise of that and why it works so well is that is because it's like the believer paired with the skeptic, and they investigate things together.
Hmm.
Since Rhys Darby seems to be a big believer, and you seem to be a bit of a skeptic, there could be a show there. Just saying.
What about you? What are you gonna do? Be our cameraman?
Yeah, I'll be the cameraman. I have nothing interesting to say.
Okay. And Jane
Okay, we
Goodall can
move.
come too.
Yeah, yeah, she'll be forced to be on it when we keep misquoting her about cryptids. Believer in the Loch Ness Monster, Jane Goodall has staked her reputation on Nessie.
Oh my god. Uh, okay, so let's go on to our wild chat topic for the day.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel for full episodes or download the MP3 from the links below.